basically we went to Japan in March, and we were there for a little over 2 weeks. And mostly the trip to Japan was based around Kashin, my wife's zuisse ceremony. So it's kind of zuisse is kind of becoming abbot one day and one night of the head of the Soto monasteries, Eiheiji and Sojiji. So she did kind of assisted in the morning services at both Eiheiji and Sojiji. So we first went to Rinzuen, so Shunryu Suzuki-roshi's home temple, and stayed with the family there. And we have a long relationship with the Suzuki family. And then we kind of went around. We did a pretty big loop on the backside of to Kyoto, and then up to Eiheiji, which is in Fukui, and then to Daijoji, which is Tetsugikai's. He's the third Zenji of Eiheiji. So it goes Eihei Dogen, Kon Ejo, and Tetsugikai. So Daijoji, we visited Daijoji, and then from there we went to Shunryu Suzuki-roshi's granddaughter Narumi, who I grew up with, and we visited her in Gunma Prefecture, and then went basically down to Tokyo, and then in Yokohama, Kashin, my wife, did the zuisse there at Sojiji. So that's kind of I'm just giving you kind of an overall.
Yeah, itinerary. It's amazing.
Yeah,
You covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So what was that? When was the last time you were in Japan?
It was probably a 2000, maybe 19 or 18 before the pandemic. Yeah.
Gotcha. What was it like, kind of revisiting and seeing some people that you grew up with? I mean, was that kind of interesting to kind of get back together with Suzuki-roshi's family that you have kind of this connection with?
Yeah. So in 2023, Hoitsu Suzuki, Shunryu Suzuki-roshi's son, then came over here for my Shinsan Shiki, and my Shinsan Shiki is being installed as kind of the abbot of Genjo-ji, or Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. So Hoitsu Suzuki, and then Shungo, which is Hoitsu Suzuki's son, then came over too, and Narumi came. So they came here in 2023. Yeah.
Wow.
And so to revisit them, we've had either I see them. Last time I saw Hoitsu Suzuki was then in Germany at a Shinsan Shiki and ceremony in Germany. So we see each other kind of around the circuit, when either when he comes to United States, or if we go to Japan. So there's some friends that a friend that I trained with at Eiheiji in 2011 then came and visited Rinzuen. Rinzuen is Shunryu Suzuki-roshi's home temple in Yaizu, Shizuoka. So his name is Mange, but he came to visit, and there was probably a good maybe 20 people that we visited. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's kind of many people to talk about, but it was a good reconnection. And also I think when we return to Japan, the connections get deeper and deeper, every time I return to Japan. So my first time in Japan was when I was 8 years old, then for my father, Jakusho Kwong's transmission ceremony at Rinzuen. So we stayed there for a month in, I think, 77 or 78. And then that was the first time then I met Narumi, Shingo, and all the kids. And then we grew up over time. And then now we still keep in contact. So it's been like 50 years. Yeah, 50 years or 48 years that I've known the family pretty personally. Yeah.
Wow. And not just through, having had ordination yourself or anything like that, but like, being 8 years old, you're playing with
Yeah.
these kids and you're like
Yeah.
interacting with other kids.
Yeah. So I think back then in the 70s, when our family, when we moved from Mill Valley up to Sonoma Mountain. And at the time, in the 70s, my father, we're living in Mill Valley, and my father set up a sitting group in Mill Valley. And so Suzuki-roshi used to come over to our house and then do like a small Saturday program. And then moved up to Sonoma Mountain. And at the time we moved up to Sonoma Mountain, then made a connection with the Suzuki family. And if it wasn't for the trip to Japan, maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, because it was a very positive trip to Japan. And back then, no one knew what Zen was. So kind of it was it wasn't anything that was heard of actually a child growing up at a Zen center or trying to. I couldn't explain what it was to my friends, but as we grew up, then over time, then they started to understand what Zen was, because it started to kind of be introduced into kind of the regular culture of like Zen nails and Zen landscaping, even stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing that you at such a young age knew that there was something very important about that trip.
Yeah,
It was for your father's transmission ceremony, but at the same
yeah,
time, it left a very positive impression on you. Do
yes, yeah, because I think it was because uh, growing up in the States and being at the Zen Center, I couldn't express what it was and how I felt at the Zen Center. And I would try to, but people just listened. But when I went over then to Rinzuen and then played with Narumi, Kayoko, and Shungo as a kid, we didn't need to talk about what we felt or how I felt inside, because it was something that was so common. And then I saw temple life over in Japan, which was far away from Sonoma Mountain, which definitely then I said, oh, it's not just some funky community on Sonoma Mountain, but this was kind of a path and a way of life that both my mother and my father chose to live. So when I, of course, met then Hoitsu Suzuki at Rinzuen, and Noidi Roshi, he supervised the transmission ceremony for my father. And it was the wish of Shunryu Suzuki-roshi is to have Noidi Roshi actually transmit the transmission ceremony to the West, but it never happened. So my father was very fortunate to have Noidi Roshi supervise actually my father's transmission ceremony at Rinzuen, but he was very strict, um, and kind of, you would say, a very stern. But when I met the teachers over in Japan, and actually teachers that visited the Zen Center when I was a child, I could feel that was a very deep quality, an immovable, deep, and at the same time very strict and upright. But there was there was an immovable quality, but a depth that when I was a child that inspired me. That I knew I wanted to be that type of person. But at the same time, then the quality was, there was a warmth there that wasn't based on like, oh, I love you and hugging, but there was a warmth, there was a connection, a very deep connection. So it was definitely a positive experience, a child positive experience. And then now I think, you know, being in contact with then still the Suzuki family in this way, it's been wonderful.
Certainly. And
Yeah,
that's an amazing quality too, especially as a kid. I mean, just to be able to perceive this, but also too on
yeah,
their part, on their part, the Zen teachers that you were meeting, for them to have a strictness about themselves, maybe a formality about themselves,
yeah,
and yet for you to not feel pushed away by that. In fact, you kind of like
yeah,
you were maybe drawn to their depth, but you also could
yeah,
perceive their warmth. And
yeah,
sometimes I feel like with people that are very stern looking or
yeah,
formal or like it's really impeccable postures and all this different
yeah, yeah,
stuff, they look like they, maybe aren't kind, or maybe they
yeah,
aren't
yeah,
or outwardly kind, or like not very
yeah, yeah,
compassionate,
yeah,
and yet that's their whole thing is that they
yeah, yeah,
embody that. So it's amazing that you were able to, as a kid, not get uh turned off by that, but also too that they can, even though they're maintaining a formality, convey a
yeah,
warmth that can draw you in.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about your experience, like when you went to go and stay for that month, and then recurring years when you'd go back
yeah,
to visit Japan, and really experience temple life in this kind of
yeah,
thriving
yeah,
way, this kind of
yeah,
really deeply embedded way with the
yeah,
rest of society, and
yeah,
it's not just some funky community. Uh,
yeah,
what were some things that your parents or your household was replicating in that in your home that you felt was very of value to you, or did you want to see more of?
yeah. What do you mean see more of?
Oh, I don't know if like when you were there, you were like, oh, I wish that, like, when you were talking about how you couldn't really connect with your friends about it. Like, I don't know
Oh,
if like there was something where you wish that you could have had more language with other people, or if
I see.
I wish that I could have, taken
I
uh
see.
more frameworks from Japan into my household to make it
Oh,
like.
oh, I see. Oh, I see. No, but I think growing up though, um, being young and then starting to, of course, in high school, then a lot of my friends then came up here and they thought it was great,
Hmm.
and uh, just the idea of um, of sitting zazen and investigating the self, like what is this self, and trying to aim at a deeper way in which you become harmonious with the world. So in the 80s when I was in high school, it started to unfold like Zen, Zen in everyday life. So people started to know about it. And it was something that then started to just kind of merge also very, very organically with my life. So when I went to UC Santa Cruz and I was studying anthropology down at UC Santa Cruz, and of course I took environmental studies classes and a deep ecology, and then all these teachers that I started to read about, I met them up here at the Zen Center. So it started to um, my view then started to open up and to see that it's a really big view, of how Buddhism or this way of living can be applied to, actually everyday life, or actually how we live or culture in society to benefit actually not only ourselves, but then if we look deeply into ourselves, then we benefit all things around us, the paper, the trees, people, you know, societies, countries, and then we become kind of an enlightened society in that way. But that all has to start with working on oneself, so I think in a way there was no thing that I felt or that I feel now that could have been changed to make it better. But it was just because of the times and what culture was going through, society and culture at that time, and also as a child and then me growing up. But then it's slowly, even now, it's slowly coming together. Right now, it's slowly coming together. So,
Sure.
but yeah,
And just like just because we mentioned it, I think that there's this there's a larger, much larger global conversation about climate anxiety and the various things
Yeah,
that are going on with climate change.
yeah,
And I feel like your background with ecology, but also too with your Zen practice, and also your I guess location in
yeah,
Sonoma Mountain. I mean, there are trees there. There's wildlife there.
yeah,
There
yeah,
can be wildfires there.
yeah, yeah,
This is a very real thing, and it's very immediate for you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, have you been speaking with your sangha a lot about ecological impact, or a lot about connection between Dharma as it is within the tradition, and as it's applied and as it's perceived within the study of ecology or within environmental sciences? I mean, I was just curious how you are exploring that.
Yeah, when I went to, of course, when I was at Upaya Zen Center, I was a resident and was maybe at Upaya maybe for a little under 3 years. And then I studied with Bernie Glassman and then Joan Halifax. And we did a lot of that, a lot of programs with death and dying and healthcare professional work, and then like alone time fast. So it's kind of maybe applying the contemplative part of Buddhism or of actually Zazen or just sitting then to um, contemporary issues like what you're talking about is climate change. Over at the Zen Center here, we focus more and basically just on just refraining from and sitting down, just like the Buddha did, sitting down and refraining from creating something inside. We always have to create something within ourselves. So to understand the self in a very deep way, how the self, the undoing or the non-doing of the self makes actually the self more connected with all things around us. And so in not a conceptual way, but in a direct experience, you know, of when you're working with, um, all your thoughts come, the fabrication of your thoughts, and then we see them vanish, and then they go back and return to emptiness. Um, a lot of that is working out, um, you would say the dualistic ideas that we have inside of ourselves and letting go of this ego. And when we do that, then you cannot help but then treat all things around you as you would treat yourself, with love and compassion. So at Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, we're a very small and intimate practice center. So we just basically we open our doors for people to um, sit zazen with us, but I think it's great that people are doing like engaged Buddhism, and also it needs to get out there as well. But that's how we kind of can, you would say, uh, give or provide. It's also being engaged means even in zazen, it's engaged, but a lot of times people think it's not engaged because they think of maybe going to a temple or being on retreat is actually withdrawing from the world. But if you encounter yourself truthfully, whether you're at a Zen center or not, whether you're practicing or not, then the practice of knowing oneself should actually push you farther out into the world so you become more engaged. So the sitting practice at Sonoma Mountain Zen Center is our engagement with the world, and it's sharing the, yeah, meditation or zazen with other people, with the lay community or with anybody who wants to join. So
Certainly. Well, I think
yeah,
it's a really wonderful way of perceiving it, and also like just sharing that if you are creating an environment for people to sit and to just sit and to
yeah,
really
yeah,
investigate uh the the I guess what is it, where like the self you can kind of like, you can't really hold on to it. You like their thoughts, the thoughts will just come and go, and they're a little more
Yeah.
ethereal. So knowing that, when that kind of more or less dissolves, you actually find yourself deepening a sense of interconnection with other things,
Yeah,
and then
and then that way, when you feel connected to all things, that way, when you function in the outside world, then you treat everything as you would with kindness and compassion. So it comes from a deep space. So then you can go help people, or you could do environmental work, or you could be a mechanic, and care for your tools. So all that then has to do with creating kind of an enlightened society and enlightenment where you are, you know, and
absolutely.
where you are, the things that you touch, the people that you connect with. So it's a very, very deep practice. Yeah.
I was watching a Dharma talk with Shinshu Roberts of
Oh
Ocean
yeah.
Gate Zen Center,
Yeah.
and I believe she was talking about how, like, we use plates in our
Uh,
life all the time, and like how often do we thank them for holding our
oh
food, for
yeah.
going through the washing,
Oh,
and for
yeah.
doing all
Yeah.
those things. And it's like it is
Yeah.
even those little things, that it can do a lot to your psychology. It can do a lot to your being when you kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
are willing to offer that kind of gratitude to
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
beyond yourself. And
Yeah.
but I do think that, like, some people, and myself included, I mean, I've got plenty of work to do in this sense, but just there's this, maybe for some people, a barrier to entry, as far as to really letting yourself go, letting that ego fully dissipate,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
embrace that interconnection. Because, well, then what happens to me?
Yeah.
What happens
Yeah.
to myself? uh
Yeah.
what are some things that you might offer to people that are interested in meditation but don't want to lose themselves, or like don't want to be at a deficit because of
At
because
a
they,
de-
they, they don't
at a deficit.
in the sense of, like, oh, what happens to my personality? Like,
Yeah.
am I not going
Yeah.
to watch TV anymore? Am I not going to be friends with
Yeah.
my friends
Yeah.
anymore? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean in my lifetime, I haven't seen anybody what is it, vanish or die or die in a way that it goes into nothing, like a dead nothing. So you would say let go of the self is almost like you could say refreshing one's life, so you can do everything that you always do, but in a different way that it's held with a wisdom. So there's also spaciousness, there's also insight, and also there's an awareness then, when we go through life. It's not just by this conditioned eye that we think what we think we are and how life should be. But this, you would say this, letting go of the self is letting go of our conditioned thinking. So it's not saying that you have to be a better person or you should be this way or that way. You can be also how you are, but then also function in the real world, and also with your faults, with all your faults and with all your um, triumphs too. But then at the same time, then reflect and be aware of how you're living your life. So it's not like um, you're gonna vanish, but it's something then, you will live your life in a way that there's something that's behind it in which will help you live in a deeper way, deeper awareness, deeper quality, deeper direct experience. And then when you navigate your life, it's not from up here. It's more from the ground of being where you're living, the actual realization of actual living itself. So it's living through the plate, and then of course you wash the plate and then you feel the plate. So that's also working with letting go of the self. So it's not like yeah, it's not trying to suppress anything or to get rid of, but it's more of actually an embracing yourself, so you can also let go of actually the self. Yeah.
I feel like that it can be something like where if you hear a bird, some bird song from some bird that's outside your window or something like that, your mind might be identifying with like, or struggling with, oh, what kind of bird is that? Like, I want to know what that is, so that way I can like pat myself on the back for knowing that it was a white-crowned sparrow or whatever it was, and then, oh, what if I don't know what it is? Oh, maybe I'm not such a good
Yeah,
nature observer, and then all this stuff. Whereas, what if you just
yeah,
let the bird song just be heard and
yeah,
really listen to it, and then you get the full, or
yeah.
you get something of a full experience of
Maybe you
the
don't get a full.
yeah. You
Maybe you
don't
get
get
irritated.
yeah. You
But
get fully
then,
irritated. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
get fully irritated. But within that, then you can reflect on whatever happens. Then you reflect on it, and then it becomes something that's different, you know? Yeah.
And do you remember some of these experiences when you were, because you grew up in a Zen household. These things
Yeah.
were very much a part of you. You had teachers and all kinds of people coming into your life at a very young
Yeah.
age, and had them
Yeah.
as more or less uncles and aunts and things like that. These types of
Yeah.
figures.
Yeah.
But were there times when you were uh, growing up, and maybe before you took your precepts, maybe before you became a novice monk or anything else like that, where things really clicked? Like there was this like one moment that really felt like uh, I am not just on track, but like I can really get a sense of what everyone's talking about here.
Yeah. I think going back to actually seeing these teachers and the quality of the teacher in front of me was just so great that it was inspirational, in which it was kind of like a magnet, when I saw these teachers, and something in my heart definitely was imprinted at the moment or moments, and there was one time, then at Rinzuen, when we were cleaning Rinzuen for my father's transmission ceremony, and everyone was cleaning, like we're cleaning everything, and we're we're waiting for a Noidi-roshi to arrive. So he was the supervisor of the transmission ceremony, and at that time, Hoitsu Suzuki was he was young. Everyone was all young, but he was very kind of he was telling us, this is really important. We have to clean everything before he arrives. So everyone's cleaning, and then someone said, "Oh, Noidi-roshi, he's arrived," and the car pulled up in the parking lot, and I remember that I was in the Hato, which is the Dharma hall, and I opened up the shoji screen, and I could see Noidi-roshi get out of the car, and he got out of the car, and I looked at him, and he looked my way, but I shut the screen because I knew I could feel that he could see through me and see everything, see who I was. And at that moment, yeah, it felt, yeah, I felt like I was seen, was seen through, and that's kind of the maybe feeling that when I was in the presence of these teachers, but it was more as an imprint or a direct experience that made me have this quality, and then made me then open up to my Buddhist path as I walk it. And then I remember he came into Rinzuen, and at that time it was I think it was in January and it was snowing. It was really, really cold. He came in and it was really cold, and you could see the steam from his mouth rise, and then he said, Renzo, and this is a good temple, and everyone's all like inside, you know. So
Wow.
I think there was many times, and it was more as a child meeting these teachers and being seen, but being seen as a person in which a true person or a true being within this world which felt equal with all things, and yeah, I that was just one experience I had that was deep.
Certainly. And
Yeah,
to have that feeling too, where you're seen through, but also you're kind of allowed to be yourself at the same time. Like there's
yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah,
could kind of see yourself being who you are at that moment, someone that's rushing around trying to clean and trying to do their best. But at the same
yeah,
time, there's this kind of offering of maybe a sense
yeah,
of comfort. I don't know if comfort's the right
yeah,
word, but
yeah,
there's
yeah,
you're
yeah,
just allowed to be who you are.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. That really is
yeah,
amazing. And as far as like the inner workings of Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, because I know that like uh there are elements that are of like these traditional Japanese Zen temples that are implemented onto the grounds, and there are the Dharma Hall and everything like that. But there is this kind of uh Sonoma, there are unique qualities to Sonoma Mountain Zen Center because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
in a old barn, right? It's like it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
almost like that. What has your experience been like, kind of offering uh this space that is maybe maybe unique to California, maybe it's unique to the United States. I'm not sure how many other Zen centers or how many other Zen areas or temples have what you have going on. What is it like to
yeah,
have these kind of more unique qualities?
yeah. So I think Sonoma Mountain, it's kind of interesting. When my father, when we were first in um in Japan in the 70s for his Shiho ceremony, um, they Hoitsu and my father got together to actually to figure out to ship actually a bancho. It's our bell, and what to inscribe on the bell. And the bell, the size of the bell, of the bancho bell, it's the same size as the Hato bell that's rung at Eiheiji, so it has the same quality and same size and same sound. But on the bell is the name of, like, Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. Sonoma Mountain Zen Center is like our relative Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. It's the relative. And Genjo-ji then is manifesting this present moment. It is actually the absolute. So when the absolute and the relative, when they come together, then that's where you stand. So where you stand then is Sonoma Mountain, which is Sonoma is from the Native Americans, and also Sonoma, a Sonoma Ma can be Sonoma Mountain, or it could be Sonoma Ma also means as it is, or Sonoma Ma. The characters on the bell is no Ma is the characters are ancestors capable of grinding and polishing mountain. So then that's the inscription on the bell. And the quality of a mountain and nature is actually really interesting in practice. And just being in the nature, and right now I see trees and there's fog. So a lot of times the nature and the spaciousness of nature and the qualities of the mountain definitely help uh, one's being to return to a very deep and quiet calmness, which is based on then the nature's harmony of the universe. So like when we sit zazen in the morning, and when we walk to the zendo, I can see, the stars out. You could hear crickets, many elements of nature. And so we're located on 82 acres of land, but it's a lot of work, a lot of chainsawing and outdoor work. And there's anywhere from right now there's maybe like 13, we have 13 residents here that live at the Zen Center. So it goes in up and down depending on guests coming and going. But the nature is beautiful, and it's you would say it's deep calmness. Of course, you can have calmness anywhere, and it starts from oneself, but definitely the environment of the nature and the mountain, the strength of the mountain, offers a lot to one's practice when they come up to the Zen Center. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I have so much that I want to get into on all of that, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
quickly comment that I really appreciate your description of the inscription what's on your bell, and how
Yeah.
it's positioned, because you have these axes that meet, and
Yeah.
then ultimately it's hit, and there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
vibration that comes out,
Yeah.
and so it's you can get intellectual with the design
Yeah.
and the aesthetic, but then at a core, the message is the bell, is the
Yeah. Yeah.
and how it
Yeah.
kind of goes in all directions. It's a really a beautiful, very deeply poetic and
Yeah.
profound, just one aspect of Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. And
Yeah.
then as
So
far as,
you have to come up and visit.
I would love that. I would absolutely
Yeah,
love that.
please
No, I
come up. Yeah,
thank you, thank you. No, I will
yeah,
definitely take you up on that. And
yeah,
yeah, so I'm based in the Bay Area, and I know that like there's something very special about having fog as something that interacts with
yeah,
nature, and having
yeah,
all of that. And as far as like nature goes too, I mean, there are beautiful, you can hear the call of an owl, you can hear all sorts of different things, but there's some parts of nature to contend with. I mean, I think rattlesnakes are kind of a part of
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah. Oh,
region as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Do you have a relationship with them? Or do you have like how do you handle those, or how do you
But the animals, you're talking about the animals. There's a
mm, mm,
lot of animals up here.
mm.
There's like deer. I mean, there's sometimes in the field next to where Kashin, Aja, my son, and we live. Sometimes there's 15 deer that are around our house. And then there's bobcats too. We have bobcats and mountain lion. We have mountain lion up here. And but a lot of it, of course, there's rattlesnakes every once in a while. And but the animals, it's kind of interesting. The animals, we have also mice and rats and bats, and they're around the Zendo. But I feel like a lot of the animals when they're around the Zen Center, that they're part of our practice, and also they're the practitioners, and maybe in lifetimes before they were practitioners. There was a Zen master, I think his name was Joan, which is empty cloud, and he lived to be, I think, over 125, and it's in his diary. It says in his younger years, maybe he was in his late 80s, and it's incredible. And I think he even got beat by bandits, you know, and when he was like maybe late 80s or 90s, and then he got beat by bandits, and then he said that he didn't have anything that they could steal from him, and they just ran away, and then he just got up and kept walking kept walking. That was in his earlier years. And then at that time too, then there was, when he was sitting in his zendo meditation, right, zazen, and then there was a tiger that walked in, and then a rooster that walked in, and he said that they were his students that joined him for zazen. Yeah.
Wow.
So
And yeah, and it's like, well, I can feel that, like being be in the case where, like, what are the odds that they come in and they don't, there's not too much of a disruptive quality to it as well. I mean, the tiger can be deeply disruptive to someone's zazen, but if they come in and they're more curious, or if they're more, or maybe they lie down or whatever it is, there can be that understanding that, well, maybe they're drawn to this for some reason.
Yeah.
There could be something else happening here.
There could be something else.
Yeah. And then also too, I mean, I know that there can be a give and take relationship with teacher and student, or with practitioner and teacher, and where sometimes the teacher becomes the student to the
Yeah.
student,
Oh yeah.
who becomes the teacher.
Oh
And
yeah.
do you feel like sometimes, has there been an animal or some sort of relationship with animals at large recently that you feel like you've learned a lesson from? Because I know that sometimes, especially with households that are in rural areas, there can be consistent characters that come in and out of your life. Like they can actually be the very same animal. So I was just wondering if there's anything that you've learned from one specific being.
From one specific being. Yeah, not lately. A little while ago, there was a litter of foxes that were that were born, and there was like maybe about five foxes, but they have grown up now, and I think that one of the fox is now an adult of that litter, and then she's having another litter, and so we encounter her every once in a while, going to zazen. So I encountered her maybe a month ago going to zazen, and she came up to me when I was going up to the meditation hall, and I got between one of her cubs, and so she barked at me and then ran towards me, and then I shouted, "Hey!" Like, because I was scared, I was scared, and then she backed off, but you know,
Yeah.
and anyways, but
But you had a very real moment with the fox too. I mean, like, that's
yeah,
especially this. It's like, hey, by the way, Fox, I've known you for a long time. I've known you since you
yeah.
were little. So, like, let's be respectful here. Um, and then also too, I saw on your calendar. This is somewhat of a tangent, but or a side note. But I saw on your calendar that as of recent, you celebrated your birthday. You have a
Oh
mid-April
yeah.
birthday.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was on the calendar on the
Oh,
website.
yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it's supposed to, well, I saw it, but I was wondering what was that? What was that like to celebrate your birthday with your sangha, and just like
Oh
what is
yeah.
that experience like?
Yeah, so it was very nice. I mean, at on the mountain, we sent a invitation to everybody, and then Sangha came up, and they everybody helps with like making dinner, and we had a you know Mexican dinner, and it's just nice to see people as part of a practice community, and it was just sharing just normal moments. It wasn't any big thing, but um yeah, it was very nice and wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
I feel like there's something about just a community gathering for the sake of celebrating something that
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah,
to have a formality to it,
yeah, yeah.
but it can, just by the very nature of it being maybe on the, I don't know if it was on the grounds of Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, but it just, the weight of it can just be that the community comes together. Because I volunteered at a cherry blossom festival recently,
Oh yeah.
and there wasn't a whole lot of Dharma talk, or there wasn't a whole, like, Dharma talk in the formal sense, and there wasn't a whole lot of sitting at all. In fact,
Yeah,
there was actually quite a bit of moving around.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but there's a community element, and just
Yes,
kind of,
so of course, at the gathering for my birthday, then everyone's assigned a certain position, like serving or cooking the rice or cooking the beans or grilling the vegetables on the barbecue, or serving, when people come in, they would serve them, maybe a drink or something like that. So everyone has a position that they help create then this, you would say, informal or ordinary practice container, which when you have an ordinary practice container, it turns into an extraordinary practice, an extraordinary practice container in which there's something that's held by many hands, and then that's the Sangha getting together and creating something that's great, and real, and also down to earth, and then there's a warmth when Sangha comes together, like kind of coals in a fire, that you gather the coals together, and then it makes a warmth and a warmth to it. Yeah.
And it really makes that party a party. I mean, it can make, if everyone if everyone's lending a hand and knowing what they're doing, then it could really function, and your position being the person that blows out the candles too. I mean, that's important. Someone's got to be there to blow out the candles on a birthday. Well, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I wanted to ask you just two more brief questions.
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything that you or Sonoma Mountain Zen Center are wanting to promote or get more eyes and ears on, but if there's anything that you're working on, that you're aware that someone else is working on, that you want to share, I'd love to hear about whatever it is that you'd like to promote.
Yeah, so right now, we're in the phase of actually our second phase of our mandala project. So the mandala project is about upgrading the Zen Center, so it can last for actually generations to come. So the county up here has kind of put a little pressure on the Zen Center to actually upgrade all its buildings and come to a compliance. So we've been in the past, we've replaced basically like 12 of our cabins that we built by hand in the 70s, and we replaced them with 2 new buildings, new guest buildings and resident buildings. Then we did all electrical, water, septic, and all that. So we have all the infrastructure has been redone now. And the second phase is aiming to build a new kitchen and administration hall, and then actually a new meditation hall, new Zendo. So we're kind of in the phase of we're gonna put up a new sanmon. It's basically a gate to the Zen Center, and I believe the sanmon will go up sometime this fall, September or October, and it'll be a traditional sanmon. And we ordered 11 tons of wood from a cedar mill, and now it's being fabricated with a Japanese joinery in Richmond. So that will go up in, I believe, in September or October. In the meantime, we're trying to have Wisteria Wind, which is our affiliates of Sonoma Mountain Zen Center from Poland and from Iceland and from around the United States, come maybe in September. So we have a meeting, a vision of the Zen Center, and the vision of maybe also my father Kwong-roshi's teachings, and then hopefully it can then go into the manifestation then of the gate. And then when you enter the gate, it means that you are entering into you would say a revival or a new era, walking through the gate and going into a new era. And then it's also returning our sights and our vision to completing this mandala project, which was kind of got put on hold from the pandemic. So that's kind of so please, everyone, please come and join us, or please come actually to the Zen Center to actually sit zazen, and practice together.
And is there a way to donate on your website or anything like that?
I think there is. I'll or just email the office and go to our website. Yeah.
Great, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, it's such an amazing project, and I wish you the best with it. And what an amazing kind of global effort. I mean, you get people from all over the world that are part of your community, and more that can come and join and help in that effort and to celebrate it. And then one more brief one is, do you have any advice that you'd want to offer anybody that's walking the Buddhist path that you would have wanted to have heard when you were coming through it? Is there anything that you would want to offer
Yeah.
to your, I guess, your past self, or to anybody that is looking for a little bit of a more guidance?
Yeah. For advice, I would, it's just keep going straight. You have to just keep on going, and then trust. Also, wherever you get swayed, you have to trust the ground that you're standing on at this very moment, and then go arrive at the ground that you're standing, and then navigate your life in that way. But don't forget to not, don't turn your back on practice. So go into it, or you would say your intuition or into it or direct experience is better than being led by what you think you should do by up here. But that all comes from then sitting zazen and actually really returning to the self and then working with yourself in that way. So it's like going to a gym, you know, once you start to go to the gym or sit zazen, then you start to understand yourself in a deeper way, and how also vast it is, and also how it's interconnected with all things. So I would say don't give up. Yeah, don't give up, and keep on practicing with, also practice with people, practice with people, and don't sit on your own, but then also open, like when you sit zazen, it's an opening up to, and so it's also a sharing and a way of being in which you, of course, you learn about yourself, but then you learn about the wisdom of the world, and also how to be connected with yourself and connected with all things. So I would say just keep on going and keep on practicing. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much for that encouragement. I feel like I could that comes into play every once in a while for me, absolutely. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
Kwong-roshi, thank you so much
Yeah.
for speaking with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you the best of luck on the mandala project. And
Yeah.
also too, I hope, it's belated, but I wish you a very happy birthday as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Vincent.